Today on The Secret Sits, we are going to take a turn and examine a case that, to this day, remains unsolved. This is a wild case of extortion, kidnapping, and possibly attempted murder that took place over a span of 17 months in and around Osaka, Japan. Minasan, konnichiwa. Janto muishimasu. Honjitsu wa Rikomorenagi ni tsuite o hanashi shitai to omoimasu. Did I lose you there? Well, let me translate. Hello everyone, my name is John. Today I'd like to talk about Glico Morinaga. And I want to apologize right now. Even though I travel to Japan quite often, maybe my Japanese is not the best. Demo mada jouzu ja arimasen. But here we go. Around 9 p.m. on March 18th, 1984, two masked intruders, armed with a pistol and a rifle, use a key stolen from the home next door to enter the home of Katsuhisa Izaki, the president of Izaki Glico Corporation. Now, if you do not get over to Japan much, I try to go at least once per year if I can, you may have never heard of the Glico brand. Well, Izaki Glico's primary business is making confectionery products such as chocolate, chips, chewing gum, and ice cream. They additionally make processed foods such as curry stocks, and let me tell you, if you have never had Japanese curry before, go down to your local grocery store and hit up the international food aisle. Look for the small box of golden curry stock and buy it. Read the instructions on the back and make yourself some Japanese curry on some Japanese rice. It'll warm you up so quickly on a chilly night and you'll thank me later. In 1919, Riichi Izaki created a caramel candy containing glycogen extract from oysters. The caramel candy was named Kuchieko, and the tagline for the product was 300 meters in a single piece. So, if you have been to Osaka, Japan, you will undoubtedly recognize the Glico sign on Dotonbori Street, with the runner holding both of his hands up in the air. Well, it's on the waterfront area of Dotonbori Street, and you will see everyone taking their photos in front of the sign, mimicking the runner's stance. We will link a picture on our social media. So, I digress. Anyway, the running man's first appearance was on this original caramel candy package. So in 1922, Riichi establishes the Izaki Glico Corporation. Glico is a shortened word for glycogen. The company had two factories, one in Osaka and the other in Tokyo. Both factories were destroyed during the bombings of Japan during World War II, and they were later rebuilt and opened in 1951. So now back to March 18, 1984. The home next door where the intruders had stolen the key from was the house of Katsuhisa's 70-year-old mother, Yoshi. The criminals had broken into her home, tied her up, and cut her home phone line. And remember, it's 1984, so no, she did not have a cell phone. They took the key to her son's home, which also had a security system installed. After entering Katsuhisa's home, the two masked men tied up his wife, Mikieko, 35 years old, and his eldest daughter, Markio, 7 years old. Mikieko offered the men money, and one of them responded to her, "Be quiet, money is irrelevant." After cutting the phone lines in this house, the two men found Katsuhisa Izaki, who was bathing with his other two children, Yukiko, 4 years old, and Etsuro, 11 years old. Let me clarify that even still today, it is very common for Japanese adults and children to bathe together. It is not weird, it is cultural. A lot of Japanese bathtubs even have an area built for the adult to sit to bathe while the children are sitting in the deeper area of the tub. And Japanese people go to bathing houses called onsens, where there are nude and non-nude bathing areas. The nude areas are divided up between men and women, and the clothed areas are typically unisex. Katsuhisa Ezaki was abducted while still nude from his home and taken to a warehouse in Ibaraki, Osaka. The next morning, the kidnappers called the director of the company in Takasuki City and issued a ransom demand for 1 billion yen, which would be about $4.2 million, as well as 100 kilograms of gold bullion. However, 3 days later, on March 21st, Ezaki managed to escape from his captors and the warehouse. The extortion attempts against the Glico Company did not end there, however. On April 8, 1984, a letter was received. Here is the English translation, which may sound a bit strange because the translation is not perfect. To Japanese police fools, are you stupid? There's so many of you. What on earth are you doing? If you are real pros, try catching me. There's too much handicap, so I will give you a hint. There's no fellow in the Ezaki relatives. There is no fellow in the Nishinomiya police. There's no fellows in flood fighting corps. Car I used is gray. Food was bought at Daiei. If you want a new info, beg for it in the paper. After telling you all this, you should be able to catch me. If you don't, you are tax thieves. Shall I kidnap the head director of the prefectural police? On April 10th, vehicles in the parking lot of the Ezaki Glico headquarters trial production building were set on fire. Then on April 16th, a plastic container containing hydrochloric acid and a threatening letter to Glico were found in Ibaraki. On May 10th, Glico began receiving letters from a group calling itself The Monster with 21 Faces. Now, this is a reference to the main villain character in Edogawa Rampo's detective novels, which were very famous around Japan at this time. In these letters, the monster claimed to have laced Glico candies with a potassium cyanide soda. Following these threats, a man wearing a Yomiuri Giants baseball cap was caught placing Glico chocolates onto a store shelf by a security camera. The man's photo from the security camera was made public, but he was never identified. Because of this, Glico was forced to pull all of its products off the shelves at a great expense to the company. It resulted in a loss of no more than $21 million and forced the company to lay off 450 of their part-time workers. Meanwhile, the monster with 21 faces sent letters to the media, taunting police efforts to capture the culprits behind this incident. This is the letter received on April 23, 1984. It was sent to both the Sankei and Mainichi newspapers, as well as the Koshien police station. To police fools, you shouldn't lie. If you lie, you steal. I also sent this to the Koshien police. Why are you lying? Don't hide things. Why are you complaining? You guys are having such a hard time, so I will give you a hint. I entered the factory from the side staff entrance. The typewriter we used is Panwriter. The plastic container used was a piece of street garbage. Signed, Monster with 21 Faces. Eventually, the monster stopped contacting Glico, and on June 26th, issued a letter saying, "We forgive Glico." However, the monster then turned its extortion campaign towards Morinaga and the food companies Marudai Ham and House Foods Corporation. Now, I have no idea why this group is so obsessed with food companies, but I feel like there's a secret in there. Are they former employees? On November 1st, 1984, a threatening letter arrives at the Tokyo home of Morinaga Dairy Vice President Mitsuo Yamada. To President, you saw our power, didn't you? If you disobey us, we will destroy your company. you will get killed. Decide whether you want to give us money or do you want to see your company destroyed. Tell us in the Mainichi newspaper on either the 5th or 6th of November. Use the missing persons. Use these words in the reply. Jiro, Morinaga, mother, police, bad, friend, money, Mel. As we said before, we want 200 million yen. On November 6th, Morinaga responded to the criminals by placing the missing persons advertisement in the Mainichi newspaper's morning edition. Dear Jiro, bad friend disappeared. Come back. Warm meal is waiting. Mother, Shioko. Morinaga was forced to reduce its current production of its products by 90%. On June 28, 1984, just 2 days after the monster agreed to stop harassing the Marudai Ham Company for 50 million yen, or about $210,000, the monster arranged for the Marudai employee to toss the ransom money into a local train headed toward Kyoto when the white flag was displayed. An investigator disguised as a Marudai employee and following the drop instructions of the monster spotted a suspicious man watching him when he was riding a train to the drop point. The man was described as a large, well-built man wearing sunglasses, his hair cut short and permed, with eyes like those of a fox. This man then became known as the Fox-Eyed Man. Well, the white flag was never displayed, so both men disembarked from their train at Kyoto Station. And while the investigator waited on a bench, the Fox-Eyed Man continued to observe him. The investigator later headed back to Osaka, and the Fox-Eyed Man boarded another car in the same train. When the investigator exited the train at Takasuki Station, the Fox-Eyed Man boarded a Kyoto-bound train, and another undercover investigator tailed him from Kyoto, but the Fox-Eyed Man eventually lost him. Police got a second chance at the Fox-Eyed Man on November 14th. On this day, the monster group tried to extort the House Food Corporation of 100 million yen, or about $410,000. At a rest stop on the Meishin Expressway near Otsu, investigators saw the Fox-Eyed Man wearing a golf cap and sunglasses, but he again evaded capture. The cash delivery van they were tailing continued to head toward the drop point, where they were to drop the money in a can under a white piece of cloth. They had a thing for white cloth, apparently. When the van reached the drop point, the white cloth was there, but the can was missing. As a result, the investigative team was ordered to withdraw, believing that the drop point was an evaluation by the monster of the police's response. However, 1 hour earlier, a patrol car from the local Shiga Prefecture Police had spotted a station wagon sitting with its engine running and its headlights off. The car had been less than 50 meters from, you guessed it, a piece of white cloth suspended from a fence. Unaware of the secret ransom drop, the police officer drove up to the station wagon and shone his flashlight on the driver, revealing a thin-cheeked man in his 40s, wearing a golf cap over his eyes and a wireless receiver with headphones. Surprised by the policeman, the driver sped off, and the police officer lost him in the pursuit. The station wagon was later found abandoned near the Kusatsu station, and of course they discovered that it had been stolen from the area around Kyoto. Inside the car they found the radio transceiver that had been eavesdropping in on the radio communications between police officers of 6 prefectures, including Osaka, Kyoto, and Kobe, like the steak. All 3 areas had been drop points. Following the blackmail campaign on House Foods, the monster then turned its sights on Fujiya in December 1984. Fujiya is another Japanese confectionery company. You have to understand that Japanese people love their treats and sweets. Fujiya's mascot is Peko-chan, a girl with pigtails licking her lips. I will include a picture on our social media. In January 1985, police released the first facial composite of the fox-eyed man to the public. In August 1985, after continuing harassment by the monster with 21 faces and the failure to capture the fox-eyed man, Shiga Police Prefecture Superintendent Yamamoto killed himself by self-immolation. So, for those of you who do not know, self-immolation is a form of suicide where the person pours a flammable liquid over their entire body and lights themselves on fire. This is a long-held form of suicide in Asian cultures, and it was made famous during the Buddhist crisis in South Vietnam. 5 days after the death of Yamamoto, on August 12th, the monster sent its last message to the media. Yamamoto of Shiga Prefecture Police died. How stupid of him. We've got no friends or secret hiding place in Shiga. It's Yoshino or Shikata who should have died. What have they been doing for as long as 1 year and 5 months? Don't let bad guys like us get away with it. There are many more fools who want to copy us. No career Yamamoto died like a man, so we decided to give our condolence. We decided to forget about torturing food-making companies. If anyone blackmails any of the food-making companies, it's not us, but someone copying us. We are bad guys. That means we've got more to do than bullying companies. It's fun to lead a bad man's life. Signed, Monster with 21 Faces. Following this message, the monster with 21 faces was not heard from again. In June 1995, the statute of limitations ran out on the assault and kidnapping of Ezaki, followed by the elapse of the statute of limitations in February 2000 on the charge of attempted murder for the poisoned food products. In the end, Tokyo Metropolitan Police suspected that various Yakuza groups had a hand in the Glico Morinaga case. Yakuza in Japan is like the mob in any other country, and immediately following this case, the Yamaichi feud broke out in Japan. The mob war lasted from 1986 through 1989. During this time, the gangs participated in no less than 220 gun battles, and local newspapers carried daily scorecards with the latest body counts from each side of the war. At the end of the war, the Yamaguchi-gumi won in what turned out to be a Pyrrhic victory, having lost many members either to prison or death. So now on to our task. There are so many secrets to be unwrapped here, and because this is an unsolved case, we could probably guess these secrets forever. Who was the monster with 21 faces? Who was the fox-eyed man? Let us know what or who you think the secrets are behind this case, or any of our cases, by contacting us on our social media. The Secret Sits is hosted by me, John Dodson. Audio engineering by Gabriel Dodson. Original artwork provided by Tony Lay.